Ender Lilies, a Metroidvania / Souls-like with a dark fantasy twist where you play as a little girl trying to save an already dying world. It has a beautiful soundtrack, polished gameplay, and hosts an overwhelmingly positive status on Steam. So after enjoying the intended experience and playing the game normally, that's right, we're going to break it down into small pieces with a hammer before completing the game as fast as possible. Speedrunning. The art of doing the fast for any game ever made in order to get the world record for the fastest time in the world. Fast equals good. It's the whole process of finding glitches, executing them, implementing them into usable routes, etc. That's already done for us. I'm just here to show you what's being used and where in the current meta. So, disclaimer, I am assuming you've already played the game, so there will be spoilers. That's about as much warning as you get. So while looking at the specific leaderboard for ending A any percent, meaning we can complete as much or as little of the game as we want, as long as we actually reach ending A, we see this. This is the culmination of the competitiveness of the community and where we currently stand. I've been lucky to be able to use the third place record holder's footage, Iris, in order to help exemplify how the run is, well, ran. Why don't I use my own footage, you ask? Well, that's because my time is roughly here, right between 15th and 16th place. This wouldn't be much of a guide if you were watching my gameplay, trust me. One of the very first things you're going to see into the run is what I call a long dive. It is very simple. All you do is press jump and then dive immediately while moving to either side. This results in Lily doing a longer dive to the side, gaining a little bit of extra air rather than just a jump and dodge. With that bit of space, it is faster than just diving across the ground repeatedly, and it gains you a bit of extra air as well. Very useful. Another thing you're going to see is weapon switching. So on the bottom left, when you see the weapon switch after every dive, that is because it cuts off the recovery animation from landing. It lets you start another jump sooner. So by combining that with a long dive, you get even faster traversal over a room. You're going to be seeing that consistently across this entire speedrun. Keep that weapon switching in mind, because it can be used more for than just the dive. Do note that this longer dive technique cannot be used when there's a low ceiling. This will cut the jump short and you will lose both distance and height, ultimately losing you time. So instead, we have an alternative. The alternative jump is going to be one that you just jump normally, but right before hitting the ground, you hit the dodge button to dodge into the ground, and then you hit it immediately afterwards to dive along the ground twice. Again, doing the weapon switch afterwards in order to cut off that recovery animation. The last one is going to be a climb cancel using the prayer. So while Lily is actively mantling a ledge, you can hit the prayer button to immediately step up onto the ledge. Then you can cancel the prayer with either a jump or dive using one of the previous techniques to gain distance. So right before we start into the actual speedrun itself, do remember that there is the speedrunning Discord for this game. It is filled with great people, very friendly. They are very willing to provide different resources and strategies, and this is where I got most of this material. I would not have learned even half of this without their help. And definitely also check out the speedrun.com leaderboards, as just watching the top runners like Iris here is really where you're going to learn most of what to do, where to go, and how to do. Every speedrun will start off from a fresh file, so that is what Iris begins with. Utilizing the long dive and landing the small corridor using the skipping across the ground, the double dive. He's going to quickly move across this room. There are specific setups that he uses, specifically using the double skip on the ground over the first one, and then these specific distance jumps in order to not hit the enemies. Everything is very specifically spaced out so that when he gets to this corridor, he doesn't hit that top ledge and gains the proper distance for getting through those nights. Using the prayer animations to skip through, you'll see plenty of that across the run. On this upcoming door, Iris will swing at the end of his jump before hitting the ground in order to stop the landing animation and start the next jump sooner. The double skip along the ground can also be used after falling from a ledge to be able to immediately gain some distance. To get past enemies that are sitting right on the ledge, Iris will grab onto the ledge, prayer cancel, and dodge immediately to pass through them. Moving on to the first boss of the run, Sigurd will almost always start out with a jumping attack. Using the Emerald Knight, you can just continually swing at her without dodging. You will also want to utilize the infinite combo with the Emerald Knight. By swinging 3 times and then immediately weapon switching, you can start the next 3 hit combo immediately without any recovery break or recovery frames afterwards. Sigurd in her monstrous form also has a weakness in her jump attack. You can simply walk under it instead of having to dodge, allowing yourself to continue swinging without losing any time. Immediately after defeating any boss, Lily will need to purify them. In order to do so, she will need to be in front of the corpse. If Lily is not in front of it right as the trigger starts, she will run to it automatically. That running will lose you time. So ideally, you put yourself right in front of the boss when the purification starts. Save an extra bit of time if you are able to kill the boss when it is closer to the right side of the screen. That eliminates some travel time afterwards. From here on out, the movement changes just slightly. Instead of doing the long dive like we've been doing up to now, there's the addition of the double jump. So now you are going to be jumping and then doing the long dive. You can do it at any part of the jump. It is more efficient to do it early, but often to avoid enemy attacks or get onto certain ledges, you can delay the long dive by a certain amount. But this will be seen for the rest of the run. Here's where the route can diverge. There's a route that goes up, there's a route that goes down. In this run we take a very specific route. You are going to go down. If you're ever confused on where to go, you can simply follow along the map, and I will show a version here of the full route of where to go. So if you want to pause and take a screenshot or screen capture and save this for later, this is the exact rooms you enter. Entering into the respite room, this is going to be the first respite you take. So sitting at this bench and switching your spirits to include Sigrid. She is going to be necessary for the upcoming part, and you need to ensure that she is in the same spot on both of your weapon sets. This is to ensure that you don't switch which attacks you're using when you're doing the weapon switch cancels. So be sure to do that, and do not sit at any other respites other than that one. Did you catch that? Let's go back. This is part of a new movement technique using Sigrid. By utilizing her right before hitting the ground, you can instead cancel Lily's landing animation entirely and allow her to make another jump immediately. This next spot uses a fun technique where if you jump immediately upon touching the surface of water, you can hop across it. This works when diving into the water, landing in water from great heights, or from a previous surface hop. Either way, it's much faster than having to swim up and out of the water, and also keeps you safer from the mermen. If you can just barely touch the side of this water, just tap it and then exit the waterfall again, it will reset your jump and dive in order to get a little bit further without having to touch the ground first. This next part requires you to use Sigrid. There's going to be a destructible lock on the ceiling that you will need to use Sigrid in order to break. It may take a couple tries, and it is easier to hit from this top left ledge, and you can also do it with just Umbral Knight, which I actually just found out. But ideally you hit it from that first spot and turn back immediately. Otherwise, you can move to the waterfall, moving outside of it, double jumping and moving back in, doing that consistently to gain a little bit extra speed rather than just swimming up through the waterfall. Begin the witch boss fight on the left side. This will stop the witch from teleporting too far and allow you to close the distance more easily. Even though the first strike of Umbral Knight's combo does not hit as high as the next two, Umbral Knight will do more stun damage to the boss while on the ground. Also, don't dodge the singular fireballs, just swing them through them and take the damage. Take some time during the boss transition to heal. At the end of the second phase, you want Eileen to be almost stunned. This will allow you to dish out a little bit of damage before she starts her main second phase attack, the tornado. She will teleport high into the air and begin this tornado attack that will cut off the arena. This can be easily countered by stunning her at the top. This will make her fall and take incredible amounts of fall damage, as well as stopping that main slow attack. You want to do similar in the third phase, and ultimately try and stop her from doing that attack at all, as that can eat some time and really slow down the fight. In this last phase of the fight, Elaine will now use a claw attack after every attack. You can manipulate this by moving high into the air once she is close to being stunned and about to use that attack, and force her to take the greatest amount of fall damage possible, as Iris does here. Immediately after purifying the witch, you can return to Respite, and do remember to equip her as a spirit. This next section requires a more difficult jump. It's not as difficult as the final jump, but it still does require a new trick. That is by using an old one, the animation cancel by weapon switching. This time, instead of after doing a dive, after using a singular attack from the Umbral Knight or the Dark Witch, if you weapon switch immediately after, it will allow you to keep some forward momentum. So without weapon switching, after the attack you would immediately start dropping downwards before being able to move forward. Instead, if you do weapon switch, you can start your movement off at a diagonal. So doing this twice over a longer gap can get you a little bit of extra forward momentum. This is the only reason we had to kill the witch, because we needed her to be able to get across this jump using these animation cancels. So doing this animation cancel twice, and then doing a long dive, and doing this attack twice, first with the Umbral Knight and then Elaine, you should be able to grapple onto this next ledge. Iris will break these pots using Secret to both replenish spirit uses and to gain some stagnant blight. This next section uses a speed swimming technique where by spamming the prayer button you are able to cancel the prayer with a dash, and then cancel the dash with the prayer, and can do that continuously to gain these speedy short bursts. Also, runners will often use the D-pad on their controller instead of the analog stick. This is for a little better consistency while doing this underwater section. Do lose some precision, but if it's easier and it makes it more consistent, then it is better for just maybe half a second of time loss.
Well, hang on, you've just...
No, I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
Now, especially if you're still learning the route, don't be afraid to heal if you get hit by one of these spikes. The last thing you want to do is die because you didn't want to risk using a heal and losing a couple seconds, and then having to go back and do that previous jump again, because by then the record has already come and gone. Skipping this respite once again, the next part of the run is going to be moving through the stockade. So once again, using the previous route from earlier, follow these specific rooms, and all we're doing is heading towards the boss of this area as fast as possible. Upon landing on the ledge below, Iris is going to break these pots to both regain spirit uses and to gain some extra stagnant as well as furious blight. Take this top ledge in order to avoid the assassin beneath that can either hit you or block the passage entirely. Now Iris is going to take the option to stop and grab different bits of stagnant or furious blight. This isn't mandatory, and I'm not entirely sure if it's faster to do this or not, because while you slow yourself down on the route towards the boss, you do get yourself a weapon upgrade which makes the boss easier and a bit more consistent. So unless you're extremely comfortable on the boss, or still learning, I would probably take this route and grab these extra bits of stagnant blight for the weapon upgrade. Upon sitting at this respite, you will regain any uses of secret from the travel, and Iris will upgrade the Dark Witch once and secret twice. At the beginning of this fight, Honir will always, without a doubt, leap away from you, so before he does, you can get in 1 or maybe 2 strikes with the Emerald Knight. One of our main goals this fight is to break down Honir's stun meter and make sure to stun him while he's in the air. This will generate some fall damage and make the fight easier than if we stunned him while he was on the ground. During this fight, executioners will both respawn periodically and at the end of every boss phase, so at the start of the second and third phase, more executioners will always spawn. However, there will only be a finite number of them, about 4. If there are already 4 executioners, there will not be any more spawned. So by leaving them at low health when entering the second or third phase, you can kill them off quickly and then not have to worry about a respawn for the next bit. At this point, Honir will begin actively approaching the player. He will do so either walking slowly or by using a jump attack, which he uses knives to throw down at you. He also gains this type of whirlwind attack in front of him, where if you're standing within melee, he will use its stride to force you back. Ideally, you either dodge in through him to get behind him as he does this, or stand directly in front of him, between his hitbox and the hitbox of the whirlwind. It's difficult, but it does save time. Similarly done with Secret, you want to move to the right side of the room for Honir's last phase, so that when he dies, he's closer to the exit. Honir will become significantly more aggressive in this final phase. Make sure to be killing the basic executioners, as they can often get in your way while you're trying to dodge Honir, and with his spinning blade attack he can quickly take you out if he lands directly on you. When Honir does his throwing knife attack, it is fairly easy to just do a singular hop and start using a lane, as you can dodge the hitbox while attacking. Again, position yourself for the Purify, and hopefully you're close to the right side of the room. So now here's the part we've all been waiting for. It's time for the jump. The one that can take hours upon hours to learn and is incredibly difficult to do correctly. So hopefully you did it first try. Okay. So now let's get into how to actually do this jump. The very first part has to deal with the hook. Now that we've defeated Honir, we now have access to it, and it's going to be crucial for the beginning of this glitch. Is that at the moment, if we just do the techniques we know so far of jumping, doing the long dive, doing the animation cancels to save your momentum, we simply just do not have the height or horizontal distance in order to make it to that ledge. So ideally we find a movement technique, which we did with the hook. So whenever you dodge and dive, we know that you can get a good amount of distance. But by starting the hook here, you can pull yourself back and across, which doesn't seem great because you're losing distance. However, it resets your double jump and your dodge. And the other part is that it does not just pull you horizontally across. This will instead pull you slightly up. Not as steep as this, but enough that there is a height gain. So then you can do your dodge again, and then rehook and get slightly higher, and then dodge again, and then rehook higher. It's doing this infinite combo until you reach around this height where you're not really going to gain any more. Then it's just going to be the consistent straight horizontal. So we can see Iris do that and start the setup. On this next part, Iris stops about in this position, in line with this pillar at this top piece, right on the corner, and then swings. He's going to swing 3 times. This is in order to ensure he's in the correct spot, and then after that, he's going to continually mash the attack button and mash the hook button, both of them at the same time. What this is going to do is that the second you begin to drop, you are going to immediately hook as soon as possible, and then that hook is going to immediately cancel the second it starts by the attacks. So it's going to fall slightly, start the hook, and then cancel it with an attack. That is going to reset your double jump and your dive while you are slightly closer to this ledge than you were on the other one if you just jumped from it. That is a very good spot to be. You can use this little ledge here as a guide. If you can stop ideally just here above it, then you are in a perfect spot. If you are halfway into this with her feet touching maybe around here, you're still maybe safe. It's a lot harder, but ideally you are just above this spot when you start the next attack. So now on to the final section of this jump is the jump itself. We are no longer doing a setup, we are now executing the final portion of the gap closer. So what we are going to do is, after swinging with the Emerald Knight, you are going to animation cancel. That is going to stop yourself from falling directly down, and that is going to give you this horizontal, the diagonal forward movement. You have to let yourself fall slightly to be able to get this horizontal distance, and then you're going to jump and you're going to do the long dive. Once you get to about around here, just before you hit the ledge, you're going to swing once with the Emerald Knight and then animation cancel in order to put Lily into a neutral position where she'll actually be able to grab onto the ledge. If she's still diving, she won't be able to grab onto this ledge and you'll miss. So if you've done everything right, you should end up with this. And there you go, that's the infamous jump of ending A on current patch. Hopefully you'll be able to do it in sooner than 2.5 hours. That's how long it took me to get it just once. But I also had to learn it from scratch, watching these runs and not understanding a single bit. So hopefully it'll be a lot easier for any of you who are actually attempting this. I'll throw in a couple extra clips of some other successful jumps I've had, just to give you another few examples. Otherwise, let's finish off this run. Yeah. It requires a lot of patience to do some of this stuff. Yeah, because I've spent like 13 minutes here, and the world record is 16 minutes. So, kinda crazy what those men can achieve, but it's the way it is. So now with that last fairly painful part over with, we can now enter the final stretch of the run. In this final part, all you only need to do is just follow some of these hooks upwards, making sure to double jump at the end of this last hook in order to reach the last one, and using secret in order to cancel some of the landing animations. Otherwise, you get to the end freely. Time ends upon hitting Purify, and at the very end you must show the save slots in order to see the time on them and validate the run. Then there you go. You have now done the ending A any percent speedrun of Ender Lilies. I would like to thank again Iris, the third place speedrunner, who allowed me to use their footage for this. Watching some of the top runs is one of the best ways I found to actually learn this, so you can definitely check out the other ones out on speedrun.com. Otherwise, this video should entail at least most of the techniques used for completing this run. There are going to be things I missed, there's going to be things I glossed over, or explained poorly, or made a mistake of. I myself am still a beginner run to this after all, but I wanted to help expose more people to this because I love this community, I love this game, and now that's mostly it. I just really like this. So yeah, get out there, go fast, and try not to lose your mind.